The sweet aroma of pancakes wafted through the kitchen on this quiet morning. The soft May sunlight streaming through the window gently fell on James's shoulders as he read the newspaper at the table. His crisp Marine Corps uniform was always a sight of pride. The medals on his chest, telling the story of over 20 years of military service, gleamed in the morning light. "Mom, lots of honey on my pancakes, please." I couldn't help but smile at Lily's voice as she came running down the stairs. My 12-year-old daughter had recently begun showing signs of growing up. Since starting middle school, she'd become conscious of her uniform skirt length and particular about her hairstyle. But her love for pancakes remained unchanged from her childhood. "You're up early today," I called out to my daughter as I slid the pancakes onto a plate. On the kitchen counter sat Lily's lunchbox, which I had prepared the night before. Since Norfolk was already getting hot in May, I had made sandwiches for today. "We're studying genetics in science class today." "It's super interesting," Lily replied while adjusting her uniform tie. The gesture reminded me of her father somehow. Even without blood ties, living together for 12 years naturally leads to picking up each other's mannerisms. But I felt uneasy, as if this ordinary daily life was beginning to waver. "Oh, that does sound interesting." James looked up from his newspaper with a gentle smile. The Marine Corps Times headline mentioned the upcoming Memorial Day ceremony. Every year at this time, the base was enveloped in a special tension. "But," Lily continued hesitantly, "my classmate Jenny says weird things. She says I don't look anything like Dad. My eyes are different, my hair color is different." A heavy silence fell over the kitchen for a moment. I thought I saw James's newspaper tremble slightly. Only the ceiling fan's whirring broke the stillness. "That's not true," I quickly responded in a cheerful tone. "Look, your serious nature and how organized you are. You're just like your dad. And your smile is exactly like his." Though Lily nodded slightly, her eyes were fixed on the family photo displayed on top of the china cabinet. In the picture, James had his hand on Lily's shoulder, wearing a proud smile. Next to it was another family photo taken at the base chapel, from the Christmas candlelight service. "Well, I'm off to school." Lily quickly finished her pancakes and straightened her uniform collar. On her way to the door, she glanced up at the family photo once more. That look tugged at my heart. That night, I happened to glimpse Lily's smartphone search history. The words DNA testing, genetic testing, and 23andMe were lined up on the screen. I had also noticed her getting increasingly fidgety as Father's Day approached. Sometimes, when passing by her room at night, I could sense her trying to eavesdrop on our conversations through the door crack. Hidden in the back of the kitchen cabinet was an old album I hadn't shown anyone yet. In it were carefully preserved photos of Michael from his younger days. "Maybe it's time we told her," James whispered softly in bed before sleep. His voice lacked its usual certainty. "It's too soon," I responded immediately, though without conviction. In the light seeping from our daughter's room, I could sense her waiting for our decision. Saturday afternoon, I was preparing dinner in the kitchen. Tonight was James's favorite pot roast. The aroma of beef and potatoes already filled the room. James had finished mowing the lawn and was taking a shower. Through the kitchen window, I saw Lily retrieving mail from the mailbox. She had been checking the mail every day lately. What she held in her hands must be the DNA test results she had ordered online last week. Trying not to be noticed, I paused my vegetable chopping to watch her. Lily clutched the envelope to her chest and headed straight to her room. Her footsteps up the stairs seemed heavier than usual. My heart began to pound forcefully. About 10 minutes passed. Not a sound came from our daughter's room upstairs. The shower had stopped, and James came down to the living room. Seeing my expression, he seemed to understand immediately. It came. Those brief words carried deep meaning. I nodded slightly. Then, we heard faint sobbing from upstairs. Following that, footsteps descending the stairs. One step, then another. Each step tightened our hearts. When Lily appeared in the living room, her cheeks glistened with tear tracks. The sunlight from the window made those tears sparkle like diamonds. In her trembling hands, she held the crumpled envelope. "Mom?" Lily's voice quivered slightly. "Dad. Dad isn't my real father, is he?" Those words hung in the heavy air. Behind me, I could sense James's cold smile. I knew it was his way of masking deep love. The living room walls, illuminated by sunlight, were lined with photos of our memories. Lily's first day of school. James standing proudly with his hand on her shoulder. Him marching in his Marine Corps uniform at the base parade. A family photo in front of the Christmas tree. And in one corner, an old photograph, me with him in our younger days, both smiling. Lily's hands trembled. The paper she pulled from the envelope showed clear numbers. DNA match percentage. The numbers that should show genetic connection between father and daughter weren't there. What is this?" Lily's voice rose. Her eyes held confusion, bewilderment, and a searching light. I stood up and walked to the bookshelf. There was an old album I had kept for years. The leather cover was peeling and yellowed in places, but the photos inside were carefully preserved. "Sit down, Lily," my voice was surprisingly steady. Behind me, I heard James take a deep breath. His cold smile had disappeared, replaced by an expression of deep love and resolution. With the album in hand, I sat on the sofa. Lily slowly sat beside me. The light streaming through the window was gradually changing angle. The grandfather clock ticked away, marking each beat of this crucial moment. "There's something I need to tell you." I opened the album. On the first page was a photo of me in my younger days with a man in Marine Corps uniform. Staff Sergeant Michael Taylor. Lily's biological father. The man who found eternal rest under Afghan skies that day. Outside, the roar of military aircraft returning to base echoed. It seemed like background music to the story about to be told. On the living room shelf, photos of two Marines, Michael and James, silently watched over the scene. One as a father connected by blood, the other as a father who had given love for 12 years. Shall we begin? At my words, Lily slowly nodded. Her hands were still trembling, but her eyes began to show strength to accept the truth. James stood watching over us from a slight distance. The sunlight gradually changed color, signaling the approach of dusk. The story about to be told would significantly change how our family existed. It was our family's story alone, where sadness and joy, despair and hope were intricately intertwined. As I turned the first page of the album, the summer sunlight of 1999 came flooding back. A small cafeteria within Naval Station, Norfolk. I was 22, just starting work as an administrative staff member. Wearing my brand new ID card around my neck, each day was filled with fresh surprises. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" It was during lunch when I was looking for a seat with my salad. A young Marine in his crisp uniform smiled as he asked. That was my first encounter with Michael Taylor. "This is the ladies' section," I joked. He showed an unaffected smile and replied, "Then I'll make a reservation for tomorrow." He sat in the seat across from me. After that, Michael really did appear at the same time every day. His commanding officer imposed strict training, but he never compromised on lunch hour. Sometimes with sweat on his collar, sometimes covered in mud from training, but he always came to our promised seat. "Here's a map to the base chapel," he said one day, holding out a piece of paper. "Would you join me this Sunday?" That church service he invited me to with his shy smile became our first date. We hummed hymns together as the choir sang. That evening, watching the sunset at the base pier, he held my hand for the first time. "Will you marry me?" The proposal came 3 months later. At the base memorial park, at dusk. Michael knelt on one knee and opened a small box. A simple diamond ring sparkled in the sunset. "But you don't know me that well yet," I voiced my concern uncertainly. He looked at me with serious eyes and answered, "I want to spend a lifetime getting to know you." Our chapel wedding was small but warm. Michael's fellow Marines formed an arch of swords, blessing the newlyweds. Among them was young James Brown. He celebrated our new beginning as Michael's close friend. Our new home was military housing on base. Though it was a small house, it was filled with our dreams and hopes. On holidays, we'd shop at the nearby commissary and choose presents for each other at the base exchange. Michael would do DIY home repairs during his leave. In the small flower bed he built on the front porch, descendants of those flowers still bloom today. "I'm going to be a dad," Michael cried tears of joy the morning we found out about my pregnancy. His hands trembled but gently touched my stomach. "I promise I'll come back." The last breakfast before deployment. While cooking the usual pancakes, I held back my tears. Michael poured more maple syrup than usual, laughing, "It's been a while since I've had something this sweet." In his uniform pocket was the ultrasound picture of our baby, still too small to make out clearly. He called it his lucky charm. At departure, we shared our final embrace in front of the base gate. The sea breeze blew between us. "Take care." Yes, I promise. Those became our last words to each other. 2 weeks later, in the morning, the doorbell rang, and 2 officers stood at the entrance. They removed their caps with solemn expressions. In that moment, I understood everything. "We regret to inform you." The words after that faded into the mist. The funeral was held in the same chapel as our wedding. Instead of an arch of swords, a flag-draped coffin lay before the altar. James stood beside me. As Michael's best friend, he supported me until the end. At Michael's grave in the military cemetery, he made a quiet vow. "I promise. I'll protect this family for both of us." From that day on, James visited every week. Sometimes he cooked, sometimes he was just there to talk. And above all, he cared for the baby growing in my womb as Michael would have. Because it's Michael's child, it's my family too. The day Lily was born, James was the first to rush to the hospital. As he held the tiny baby, there was clear determination in his eyes. "Please be her real father," I told him when Lily turned 1. After a long silence, James quietly nodded. "I will be this child's father for life." Lily's tiny hand firmly gripped her new daddy's finger. It was the beginning of a new family. The last page of the album contains a photo from that day. A family picture taken with Michael's memorial photo in the background. Past, present, and future captured in a single photograph. As the evening light painted the room red, I closed the last page of the old album. Traces of tears still glistened on Lily's cheeks. James stood by the window, gazing toward the base. "May I speak?" Breaking the silence was, surprisingly, James. He turned from the window and slowly walked to the sofa. Though not in uniform, his bearing still carried the dignity of a Marine Corps Master Gunnery Sergeant. "Michael was my best friend and fellow Marine." James's voice was filled with deep remembrance. "That day, he called me and said, 'If anything happens to me, please take care of Amy and Lily.'" Lily caught her breath. There lay 25 years of memories of the man who became her father. We were in the same unit, went through the same training. We played baseball on leave days, sometimes argued. But he was always one step ahead of me. James stood up and took a notebook from the bookshelf. A standard Marine Corps issue notebook. The initials, M. Taylor, were engraved on the cover. This is his service diary. On the last page, there's a message for you both. Opening the notebook revealed Michael's elegant handwriting. "To my beloved wife Amy. If you're reading this letter, it means I couldn't keep my promise. I'm so sorry I won't be able to see our baby's face. But this is my duty and pride as a Marine. To my unborn child. Dad loved you from the bottom of his heart. The emotion I felt seeing your ultrasound picture will stay with me forever. Even if I can't meet you in this world, my soul will watch over you eternally." To James. "My friend, this is my final request. Please protect them. I know you'll make a wonderful father." Lily's hands trembled. Unlike when she gripped the DNA test results, this was a trembling born of deep emotion. Actually, James continued. At first, I hesitated. I wondered if I was worthy of carrying on Michael's will. He stood by the window, gazing toward the base illuminated by the sunset. But everything changed when Lily was born. The moment I held that tiny life, I knew this was my mission. James's voice quivered slightly. I still remember the first time you called me Daddy. It was the day before your second birthday. When I gave you the toy car present, you smiled brightly and said, "Thank you, Daddy." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes again. You were always there, when I fell at field day, at my middle school entrance ceremony, I quietly added. For 12 years, without missing a day, you made pancakes every morning. That's... James smiled somewhat sheepishly. I continued Michael's favorite morning routine. I wanted to preserve something of his memory. James stood up and walked to the two photos on the wall. One of young Michael, the other of himself now. Both in Marine Corps uniforms. Having two fathers is nothing to be ashamed of. Rather, it's something to be proud of. James's voice carried strong conviction. One father gave his life protecting our country and gave you life. The other father kept his promise to his friend and raised you with pure love for 12 years. Lily slowly stood and approached James. The sunset gently enveloped them both. Dad. At that word, James's eyes glistened. I never knew until now how deeply connected Dad and Mom were by such profound love. Lily continued. When I saw the DNA results, I thought my world was falling apart. But now I'm proud. Proud to be the daughter of two brave fathers. I stood up and joined them. Outside the window, the flag waved quietly over the evening base. The sound of taps announcing retreat came from afar. Shall we visit Michael's grave tomorrow? They both quietly nodded at my suggestion. There's somewhere I want to stop first. I took a photo frame from the living room shelf. Michael and me on our wedding day. Let's take this too. A new chapter was being added to our family history. Not just a story of sadness, but one of love and pride. In the quiet dusk, our three hearts were surely connected. From the base came the sound of young soldiers training, carried on the wind. That sound seemed to overlap with Michael's voice from 25 years ago. Lily stood by the window, watching the base bathed in sunset. Her profile mysteriously resembled Michael's. Though not connected by blood, she was James's daughter of 12 years. And deep in her soul, she was surely Michael's daughter too. As the first star began twinkling in the night sky, Lily whispered softly. You know, for Father's Day, I think I'll write 2 cards. At those words, we quietly smiled. Memorial Day morning light streamed through the kitchen window. A year had passed, and May had come around again. Need help with the pancakes? Lily called out while putting on her apron. At 13, our daughter was slowly climbing the steps toward womanhood. Her long hair was tied back, and a small American flag brooch sparkled on her chest. Thank you. The jam's in the right cabinet. When I answered, Lily began preparations with practiced movements. Her gestures certainly resembled mine. Though not connected by blood, they were mannerisms naturally acquired through daily life. "You're early this morning," James came down the stairs. He was in his Marine Corps Honor Guard uniform for the traditional Memorial Day ceremony. Multiple medals gleamed on his chest, including the insignia from serving in the same unit as Michael. "Because today is special," Lily answered proudly. 3 plates were already set on the table. And one more, a small plate was placed before Michael's memorial photo. After breakfast, we got in the car. Our destination was Albert G. Horton Jr. Memorial Veterans Cemetery. Though we arrived earlier than usual, many cars were already lined up in the parking lot. At the cemetery, Lily walked ahead carrying a large bouquet. A small American flag had already been placed at Michael's gravestone. Base volunteers had set them up before dawn as a tribute to Gold Star families. "Dad, I'm here," Lily spoke softly. "The same place as last year." But her voice carried a different strength than it did last year. "You know, something really wonderful happened at school last week." Lily took a piece of paper from her uniform pocket. It was her speech contest manuscript from middle school. "My family," Lily began reading. "I have 2 fathers. One was a Marine who gave his life for our country. The other, also a Marine, raised me carrying on that will." The morning sun illuminated the gravestone, casting long shadows. "My biological father died in battle before I was born. But his courage and love live on in me today. And my other father, he raised me as his own daughter, keeping a promise to his friend and out of pure love." Lily's voice trembled slightly. "Blood ties are just one form of family bonds. When I learned the truth, I was confused for a while. But now I'm proud. Proud to have 2 brave fathers. And proud to have a mother who loved them both." The speech continued. "My family's story isn't just about DNA. It's a story of love, courage, and faithfulness. The Marine Corps motto, Semper Fidelis, is the very essence of how my family lives." When she finished reading, quiet applause could be heard. Looking back, we saw that many military families had gathered around us. Among them were some of Michael's former comrades. "This speech won first place," Lily said somewhat shyly. Then she placed the trophy in front of the gravestone. "This is for you, Dad." James's eyes glistened slightly. In the afternoon, we attended the base parade. James marched as part of the honor guard while Lily and I watched from the stands. "Mom," Lily said in a small voice, "I've decided. I want to become a Navy nurse. To care for those wounded in battle." Behind that decision surely lay her thoughts of both fathers. At dusk, we had a small barbecue in our yard. Similar scenes could be seen throughout the base housing area. It had become a Memorial Day tradition. A new family album lay on the table. The cover read, "Our Family, Past, Present, and Future." The first page showed young Michael and me, followed by photos from when I married James. With each turn of the page, Lily's growth and our new family's history unfolded. "Oh, a shooting star!" Lily called out as she gazed at the night sky. "I made 3 wishes. One for each of my dads, and one for Mom." Moths gathered around the porch light. In the old flower bed Michael had built, early summer flowers bloomed gloriously. Beside them, new seedlings James had planted this year were beginning to grow. 2 photographs sat side by side on the living room shelf. Michael and James. The evening sun cast strangely similar colors on both their photos. "Dad and Dad look alike, don't they?" Lily suddenly said. "They have the same smile." Indeed, both photos showed the same warm smile. It was that special smile reserved for thinking about family. An expression that showed a connection of souls transcending blood ties. The night deepened. From the base came the sound of taps announcing lights out. Lily had already gone to sleep. On the table lay her unfinished Father's Day cards. 2 cards, one for her dad in heaven, one for her dad on earth. "Can't sleep." James gently placed his hand on my shoulder. "Just feeling too blessed," I answered. Outside the window, the early summer breeze gently swayed the garden flowers. It seemed to herald the arrival of a new season. "Semper Fidelis," James whispered softly. Those words resonated like an eternal pledge to our family.